What's up, people? How y'all doing? 7:27. We're doing a countdown here. Yep, we're doing a countdown. Every week they're supposed to get easier, folks, but I say every week it gets a little harder. So, where my people at? Where my people at? Sound check. 1 2 1 2. My mic sounds nice. Tonight I don't feel like I should be doing any hey baby girl. I don't feel like I should be doing any salt and pepper. I feel like I should be saying, Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying because of the police. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. We have to find a way, people. We have to find a way. Love starts with accountability, holding yourself accountable. We always say that we're only as good as how we behave when nobody's watching. If we only behave when we know somebody's watching, we lack character. So with that, I just want to say, how's everybody doing? See my little, hey Charlie, how's it going? Big Papa loves you, baby boy. Um, at times, even I'm at a loss for words, if you can believe that. Most people that know me say, not you, but yes. Um, One of my greatest strengths is one of my greatest weaknesses, and it's that I care. You know, that's why I do what I do for my children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, and their children. When I'm no longer here, I hope to leave a legacy of something that they can be proud of. And when I look at some of these people, I wonder, do they have that same sense of burden? You know, are they looking to leave something behind? Is your legacy going to be that like, I won't even draw a comparison. Yeah. So I don't know, folks. I'm just kind of killing a little time. I'm getting psyched up. I've got no Reel on board tonight, so I'm gonna be doing this without that. Um, the quick and dirty of it is last week I went to the gym and I kind of overdid it. Yo, where my YouTube people at? Where y'all at? Where y'all at? I went to the gym and I kind of overdid it. You start feeling good, and being a man, I guess sometimes testosterone kicks in and gets the better of you. So I don't know, people. I don't know. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. We've got to find a way. Back in October of '95, me and another brother, who ironically became last I know of him, he was an Illinois state trooper. And we were real tight once upon a time, but it appears that we aren't anymore. Yo, is anybody on YouTube? I know my voice is coming through. Can y'all not get me? What's up? I'm waiting on my YouTube people. Where y'all at? Somebody hit me up on YouTube. Some of y'all double dope me. You know, hit me up both ways. Anyway, me and his brother was really tight back in the day, and he decided that he wanted to become a cop. And in doing so, I don't know, he stopped communicating. So I guess he what was crazy about it is once upon a time, what he did was he was seeking his blackness. But I don't want to make the draw an inference that he traded his blackness for blueness, but it happens. Shit happens. So, folks, I don't know what's happening with my YouTube people. So somebody hit me up on YouTube. Let me know what's up. I see my voice is coming through okay. I see my transmission is good, but I don't see any interaction with any of my normal YouTube people. So, oh, I see some people in the background. They just having YouTube. Give me some thumbs up, man. Y'all got me sitting here wondering what's happening. Oh, I see 2 thumbs up. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Y'all usually so talkative. But anyway, let me go ahead on and get on with this. Oh, you telling me everything fine, but you ain't typing nothing over there. Gave me some little thumbs up. Don't make me come over there. Oh, some people gonna make me come to Kansas United. Oh, dirty. Um, good evening, folks. Welcome to the show. I want to thank you again for choosing to spend your Thursday night with me. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this. As always, I'm truly humbled. My short's call, I got something to say, so it must be true. And no other time. It seems like every week there's something that's more true than the week before. So I guess it goes to part of what our message is tonight. My name is Hank Batiste, alias the Renaissance Man. I'm also known as Rennie for short. I'm your host tonight. And because of what's happening, because of what happened to Lil Dante, because of what happened to people, this is the third week of testimony in who I dubbed the Minneapolis murderer, Derek Chauvin. And it draws to an end today. I guess after calling only 7 witnesses, the defense rested. As I watched today, I was kind of pissed because it's obvious. It's so obvious when a police officer goes on trial that they're treated more like an officer of the court than they are treated like a defendant. And they have a legal advantage that civilians do not have. As I was watching the trial today, I've never been so relieved when my cable went out. I wanted to turn it off, but I was afraid that I might miss something. So I tuned in anyway, no matter how hard it was. And then the cable went out and I was forced to do something else. It seems that no matter how compelling the case is against Derek Chauvin, I look at the demographic makeup and I think about how many closet Trumpsters, Trumpies, Trumpettes, and his minions, how they've infiltrated every walk of life. And I wonder if maybe 1 or 2 of them are sitting on a jury. And if so, that's going to be the deciding factor. I see his attorney as being barely capable. He certainly need not be a Johnny Cochran or even a Robert Shapiro for that matter. But the cards are stacked against George Floyd getting any justice. If there is such a thing of resting in peace, this man is not resting, not peacefully. Not only him, but all of the countless lives that have been taken unnecessarily by racist cops who should have never made it past the initial psyche valve. To add insult to injury, then we look at little Dante Wright, who was murdered by what I call a calculating, cold, hard, calculating, manipulative cop. She brilliantly executed her murderous plan under the disguise of taser. She took aim, she shot, and then she said, "Oh shit, I shot him." You notice as I posted this week, I spelled taser Tazer because I'm at my wit's end. How? I'll get into it a little later. I promised myself I'm going to stay on script and I'm not going to deviate too far from center. But let me just say this. Oh shit, I shot him. Taser, taser, taser. You aim a taser just like you aim the gun. And that's all I got to say about that. We can talk about all the differences. We can talk about somebody being on the force. Now, I heard that Brooklyn Center, this little small community, 10 miles away from downtown Minneapolis, only has like 40 something, 46 or 47 police. They have a black mayor, but not one black police. If you know anything about Minneapolis, Prince was not the only biracial child. There's more biracial mixing, a multiracial mixing in Minneapolis than there is in most places in the United States. If you know anything about me, you know that I have a strong Minneapolis connection because my first cousin, my mama, younger brother, moved to Minneapolis after the Second World War. And he started a family. And as a result, I've got cousins who's got children. And I'm the youngest of those grandkids. Rest in peace, Cliff. Cliff was 2 months younger than me. Cliff was a renowned basketball coach in the city of Minneapolis. Cliff grew up around the corner from Prince. He was tight with Terry Lewis, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. But Cliff was also married to 2 white women and have 2 biracial children. So when I hear these things, and when I would go to visit, they would say things like, once you get outside of Minneapolis, it's a whole nother Minnesota. So I'm wondering in the back of my mind if this has anything to do, all the racial mixing, has it piqued these haters to the point that they're doing what they're doing? People, you can't pick who you fall in love with. Let me get back. Oh shit, I shot him. Then this heifer, Kim Potter, 48 years old, 26 years on the police force. She swiftly moved to resign before she could be fired. Why? Because she wanted to retain her pension. Then her boss, the police chief, who probably advised her, he resigned as well. So why did he resign? More questions to be answered. He too resigned before he could be fired, probably to save his pension. So I always say that an organization follows the culture that's set by those that are in charge. As an administrator, what I tried to teach my people when I was at Bethesda Radiology, Bethesda Naval Medical Center, managing the radiology department, I had one simple rule. If we treat everybody like they're a VIP, then we don't have to behave any special way when the president of the United States comes into the hospital. It's second nature to us. That's our mental muscle memory. Enough about that. COVID 21 is spiking around the country. And surprise, Florida per capita has the highest infection rate of this new strand of COVID, what I call COVID 21. Because I said last year that this nonsense was mutating. When I try not to cuss, I lose my train of thought. So I'm gonna just let it fly the way it come out. Filters be gone. I said last year that COVID was mutating and it was not the same COVID we met back in November and that we were introduced to in February, March of last year. So now they say that this strand is UK variant, and folks, there are folks that have been doing what they've been doing, what they were doing before they were supposed to be quarantining and all of this other stuff. So it stands to reason. When I have a governor here, I call him Ronald Trump Santis. He's so far Trump's behind. He opened the state of Florida, as most of the Republican governors did. But Florida is one of these places for two things. We have spring breakers and we have what's called snowbirders. That's those retired and semi-retired people that choose to spend their winters in Florida from places like Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio. You're starting to catch on? But I'll touch on what I call my cause and effect analysis of the cold weather state of infections later in the broadcast. Family, I'm full. I'm overwhelmed with these issues that none of us can control. So at this stage, let's just get to it. Tonight's show is called Sovereign Citizens, aka police officers, also known as police officers. Minneapolis and sign of the time. I got something to say. It must be true. The shit makes no sense. So let's omit the logic and get with it. COVID and the anticipated surge of COVID-21. Let me be clear, family. When I hear the Trump OP, the QOP, the ROP, the GOP, whatever they're calling themselves this week, when I hear these congressmen and women complaining about how COVID has robbed us of our rights, I always laugh. I want to ask them, what happened to that same outrage when you're talking about robbing me of my voting rights? Where's that same outrage when we're talking about our right to assemble and protest? When we've been mistreated. We are where we are because delusional Donnie and his cronies allowed COVID to spin out of control, unchecked. All he was about was economics. We are where we are because delusional, despicable Donnie gave a directive to disrupt Biden's plan for moving the United States past these critical levels that he inherited. Florida has the highest infection rate. Florida has the highest infection rate per capita because Ronald Trump Santis opened Florida's spring breakers. But it's not just the spring breakers, like I said before. It's the snowbirds as well. as well. Florida has, in certain parts of Florida, and primarily on this coast. I live on the East Coast, right by the Atlantic Ocean. About 15 to 20% of this population is northerners who spend their winters here in Florida. And then they return to places like Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Maryland, so forth and so on, to supposedly milder summers. When they come down here and they're Trump supporters, they're indignant. They don't follow the rules. So they do the same thing that everybody else is doing. When he says, don't worry about wearing a mask, you know who they are because when you look at them, they give you this stern look. Yeah, like, yeah, I'm not wearing a mask. So what? Ain't a damn thing you can do about it. So now that they're starting to return home, now that these children are starting to go back, these college kids, to wherever they came from, they're taking this virus with them. How do we know? Because now we're starting to see younger people who are being affected. Now we're starting to see people who are 60 and younger be affected more by this virus. So these are the people that came here, got infected, infected other people, and then took the virus with them. So when I hear this idiot fussing with Anthony Fauci about when, and he's talking about how COVID has held our First Amendment rights to assemble hostage. I said, where's your outrage when we're talking about what happened on January the 6th? Where's your outrage in talking about when are we going to find out who's truly responsible so that they can be held accountable and prosecuted? When are you going to deal with those sexual deviants like Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump and others? Let me get on, folks. Sovereign citizens, also known as police officers. Cops are treated like sovereign citizens. Without getting into a definition of what a sovereign citizen is, let's look at the disparity of how cops are treated versus the average Joe or Joanne when they encountered the justice system, when they have any encounter with the justice system. As officers of the court, many civil laws and statutes do not apply to police officers. Number one, cops are allowed to lie to obtain an arrest or confession. So no matter what they do, the end justifies the means. If the average citizen lies, if the story changes, if you're telling the story the second or third time and you remember something that you didn't include the first time, then they say that your story changed. And the reason that your story has changed is because you're lying. And that shows guilt. So at that point, they pretty much shut down their investigation and they move towards prosecuting you. Number two, cops are told by other cops to not answer any questions until they have a union rep. The average Joe can be forcefully detained under duress for hours without representation. They can be deprived of food, water, bathroom breaks, sleep until the cops are satisfied or they get a confession. So if you don't have an attorney on retainer, your ass is grass and they're going to mow you down. Number three, and I could go on and on, but I'm just going to do three. Cops' prior transgressions, the negative write ups, their reprimands are not admissible in court. We know that does not apply to regular citizens. As a matter of fact, even a rape victim, their dating habits, their sexual history can be admitted to show their habits, their behavior, and what's called the modus operandi, how they behave in the past. Why does this not apply to cops? If someone has a habit of picking on a certain type of people, making a certain type of arrest, or using excessive force the same way, the same time with same people, why is that not admissible? Why is that not relevant? They say it prejudices the jury. You just assassinated the character of somebody that you just murdered, but pointing out that they were not perfect. Derek Chauvin faces a second-degree murder charge, a third-degree murder charge, a second-degree manslaughter charge. But no first-degree manslaughter. The jury consists again of 3 black men, 1 black woman, two people that refer to themselves as biracial, 2 white men, and 4 white women, and 2 white women alternates. I've already said, and I'll say it again, because as of Monday, they make closing arguments. Then the case goes to the jury. They only need one person, one undercover Trumpster, to say that Chauvin did nothing wrong, that George Floyd was a drug addict. Rush Limbaugh may have been too, but Rush was a great man. Huh. I think it's time that we address this disparity between how police are treated when they're accused of a crime versus how the average citizen is treated. I think the time is now. Minneapolis seems to be moving on. Minneapolis seems to be, as Prince said, sign of the times. What's happening in Minnesota, or Minneapolis in particular, is under the microscope for what has been happening to black men when they not only encounter the police. Minneapolis is indicative of what happens to black men when they encounter the court system, legislative changes of state and federal government. No justice, just us. George Floyd's life, his sacrifice became a pivotal occurrence. And as a result, it made a lot of people angry. Instead of them saying, regardless to the color of this man's skin, what happened to him was atrocious and should happen to no one. Do you understand that there's a lot of white people who is more incensed by Michael Vick fighting dogs than they were about George Floyd being choked to death, asphyxiated by 3 cops, and one of which was Derek Chauvin, who kept his knee on this man's throat, on his neck, for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. How could you not find something wrong with that, people? Sadly, one might say that George Floyd died for nothing. Why would I say that? Because during the height, the worst insult to Mr. Floyd's memory occurred when Killer Kim Potter decided to take Dante Wright's life. As a result, 140 people have been arrested in the last 4 or 5 days. Now they've erected a fence. Here's the disparity that we talk about. You're putting up a fence. You did none of that when Trump told you about January the 6th. He told you about it in November. He told you about it in December. And he warned you that this would happen, and you did nothing. But you're sending the message, if this man gets off, and I hate to say it, as ineffectual as his defense has been, I got a feeling he's going to get off, folks. If he gets convicted, I promise you, listening to today and this judge treating Chauvin like an officer of a court versus being a defendant in a murder trial, there will be an appeal. And his sentence will be mitigated. I promise you. You heard it here first. I promise you. All right, folks. Let me just tell you this. I was in the Marine Corps. The military Uniform Code of Military Justice has specific rules by the use of deadly force. Us as Black men, we are treated worse than enemy combatants are in the time of war. Do you know if a Marine, if a soldier, if a Navy SEAL shoots an unarmed man, he or she can be prosecuted for a war crime? What's wrong with this picture, people? When the military rules of engagement are stricter than the police who are supposedly there to protect and serve. When I hear congressmen whining about their freedoms to infect others over the COVID virus, when they talk about these quasi-Trump wannabes whining about their civil liberties and defending the domestic terrorists who attempted to overthrow the government with this failed coup attempt while demonizing Black Lives Matter protesters seeking judicial equality and equity, all I can do is cringe, and I get angry. I get pissed. There's no way in hell a 26-year veteran drew a Glock 19, aimed it at a 20-year-old, 140 pound. If this boy wore 140 pounds, that was the brick in his pocket. This boy looked like he was 125, but I'm just giving 140. She aimed her Glock 17 at a 20-year-old, 140-pound Black man, had the presence of mind to look down the barrel of said Glock, take aim, and scream, "Taser, taser, taser." And she never realized that she didn't have a plastic. First of all, after what happened in the San Francisco area where a cop pulled the taser and shot a Black man, they were forced to, most police force wear the gun on their dominant side. So if you're right-handed, you wear the gun on your right side, and they carry the taser on the left-hand side. So how could you make that kind of mistake? But if in fact you drew the wrong weapon, how could you take aim and not see? How could you not feel the difference in weight? Even when I'm carrying my weapon, I can tell when there's not a magazine in it because it's lighter than when it has a clip in it. So how could you not differentiate the different color, the different feel, the different weight? You've been on the force for 26 years. You drew a Glock 17. You aimed it at this kid. You looked down the barrel. You looked down the muzzle. Then you scream, taser, 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 and you pull the fucking trigger. Then you brilliantly, your cunning, conniving, devilish, demonic ass, evil ass, scream taser. Oh shit, I shot him. You know you shot him. It was not an accident. Then you have the audacity to write a 2 sentence resignation and you say, I've enjoyed every minute, every moment of being a cop. You didn't say, in my 26 years, I made one fatal mistake that if I could take back with every ounce of my being, I would. There's no remorse in your resignation. This is why I feel it was premeditated. This is why I felt like she had the opportunity presented itself and she couldn't pass it up. She had been waiting for an opportunity like this. She wasn't even the principal cop, but she waited till they were out of the way. Then she fired. There seems to be an unwritten rule, people. As there was during the height of the Jim Crow era, there seems to be an unwritten rule that there's open season on all men of color, especially Black and Hispanic. Again, I say, how is it so freaking? I said freaking, I didn't say fucking. How's it so freaking easy to take a white mass murderer into custody without incident? I saved my to now. So folks, say it with me. Fuck out of here. This was not an accident, people. I guess Ron Johnson isn't the only one who's not afraid when they see an armed white man. I guess it must be taught at the police academy. I guess every cop who ever served in the military has been retrained to not know when and how to draw the weapon and use deadly force or fire at an unarmed man. Folks, I could beat this horse, but I'm not. I'm not saying anything to you that you haven't already pondered. I'm not saying anything to you that's foreign to what you've seen on TV. I was supposed to be working on getting my t-shirts and getting all of this stuff squared away to launch my organization, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting because I'm going to have limited resources. But one of the things I want to do is to go to places like this because I have one thing that's in my mind that I feel if we can change that, we can redefine policing. We can redefine how we are treated in the legislative chambers of state and federal government. We can redefine how we are treated in the courtroom. There's one thing that I have, and I don't want to disclose it because I don't want anyone else to jump on it. Folks, with that, I'm going to wrap it up for you. I'm going to thank you again for tuning in tonight. I'm going to say, we as Americans, we all have an inalienable right. I can't talk right now because it's stuck in my throat. We have an inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We must collectively demand justice for all. In my humble opinion, folks, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. I've got family up there. But this is not just happening in Minneapolis. I have grandsons in college. I have grandsons in school. I have sons who look like me. I don't look my age, so this is why I keep a little gray hair on my chin because I ain't got that much hair, but I ain't got that much gray on my head. Every time I get in my car, I'm reminded, in my humble opinion, healing starts when we start to hold people accountable. It starts with those people who were responsible for the failed coup attempt. This week, I say that it starts with sending a message to all law enforcement. Accountability is the word. You're going to be held accountable for your use of deadly force. You're going to be held accountable for your disparity in how you treat a black unarmed man versus how you treat a white man who is armed to the hilt and just killed 10 people. You're going to be held accountable. And we, as all Americans, are watching. Those hateful people that we see, that we talk about, they're the minority people, but they're more vocal, they're more engaged than we are. And when we sit on our hands, when we don't do anything, we are just as complicit as they are. As I said, this is the dawn of a new decade in this millennium. It's time that we make it happen. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. Remember, like I always say, don't be so afraid to die that you forget to live for a purpose. I'm finalizing the t-shirts and the sweatshirts and my website. I'm trying to figure out what's happening, whether we're going to have another surge. If we have another surge, then it doesn't make sense for me to travel because I really won't be able to meet with people the way I want. I want to openly be able to meet with some ground roots organizations and bring about effective change. Something that's sustainable, not something that just happens when a young black man gets killed. Do you understand what I'm saying, people? So stick with me a little bit longer, but we're going to get this going. I promise you that. I haven't had a clear head all week because I've been following this nonsense. I've been following this nonsense because some of you can't watch this shit, and I understand why. I promise you, if not by next week, the week after. Next week, we're going to a jury decision, so we're going to be bombarded with all of this nonsense in our consciousness, and I know I will. I take this personally as though it were my child. And if all of us felt this way, as though it were our son, our nephew, our grandson, our brother, we would demand accountability. We would demand justice. And that's where I'm headed. I'll share with you as we move forward about my vision for Abba Pi, a Black agenda and policy initiatives, a Black agenda and policy initiatives. Because when it happens for us, the rest of America follows suit. So we've always been the trailblazers. Do me a favor if you haven't already. I've been told that when you go to my YouTube, when you set up to watch my video, that there's a subscribe flashing just underneath the broadcast is the word subscribe. Click on that. If it comes up and asks you whether or not you want to join YouTube, whether you want to try, just click the arrow or hit no and subscribe to my YouTube channel, people. Give me a thumbs up and give me some positive feedback. You know, you're the reason why I do what I do. My children are the reason why I do what I do. My name is Hank Batiste. I'm your host tonight, also known as the Renaissance Man, or Rennie for short. I got something to say. It must be true. I'll see you next week, people, right here. Same Batiste time, same Batiste place. is always important. I wish you love, peace, hair grease. I'm out of here, people. Have a wonderful weekend. And let's pray.